And in terms of shape-shifting, let's talk about that. Because, you know, what was said in that interview, in parts of it, does need challenging in this metaphysical impossibility. To really understand what's happening in the world and what the world is, we have to realize that physicality is an illusion. And quantum physics, as it's emerged and expanded, has understood this. We are told that the physical world consists of atoms. Atoms make up the solid physical world. Well, if you look at the inside of an atom and go deeply enough into it, there is no physicality. It's just an electrical system of electrons going around a nucleus. And as someone said, to illustrate what an atom really is, if the nucleus at the center of the atom was a 10-cent piece, then the atom itself would have to be the size of a baseball stadium. And everything else is empty space. It's not empty, it's an energy that we're not aware of, but to the human vision, it's empty space. And that's supposed to make up the physical world. It doesn't. So what the heck is going on? Why are we being told all the time by orthodox science funded by the cult, you want to go beyond what we want people to believe? Well, funding, stop it, mate. It tells us that we live in a physical world and everything's solid. Well, that is clearly, demonstrably not the case. And I just talk about how this thing works. We, in our non-human body state, are consciousness. Some people call it soul. Actually, we go beyond that even, but call it soul, whatever you like. It's consciousness. When a near-death experiencer, the body ceases to function and they find themselves in another reality, well, obviously they're not taking their body with them, have they? It's just expired. So what's experiencing that? Well, another level of energy is, which people call the soul. And so the body is a vehicle. It's a vehicle for us to experience this reality, this band of frequency, which is the human world. And so when the body expires, we find ourselves in another dimension. Why? Because the reason we've been experiencing this dimension is because the body is decoding it. If you could think of the body as a virtual reality headset, then you pretty much got the dynamic. You put into YouTube words to the effect of virtual reality headset compilations or whatever, and you will see many videos of people who put a headset on. Now they're in a room, maybe just like any other room, and they're in this reality. But you put the headset on, and within seconds, they're jumping around, screaming, running away, because their sense of reality has been hijacked, overridden by what the headset is feeding them. And what is it feeding? It's feeding their five senses. It's feeding their sight, it's feeding their audio, And in the more sophisticated ones, it's feeding their touch. And even with some of these chairs that move around, it's giving them the feeling of movement as well in relation to what they're being fed in the headset. And what they can do, because it's a headset, is they can take it off. And immediately they go, phew, oh, it was just a game. But if the body, which I've been calling since the 1990s a biological computer, is decoding this reality, which is a simulation, the dynamic of a virtual reality game is very applicable. Then from the moment you're in the womb and the body starts to form, to the moment you go out the other end in the cemetery, the biological computer is decoding this reality in exactly the way in dynamics that this computer is decoding the internet. So if you said to people who knew nothing about computers and nothing about Wi-Fi, that there is a level of energy, information in this room and around the world that you can, that is a global reality, the internet is, and that you can decode it into a completely different reality on the screen, then people would call you mad and crazy. They'd say, well, where is this Wi-Fi? I can't see it. No, because it's outside of visible light. And yet, now people know about computers and they know about Wi-Fi. And you say, you know, there's a whole reality which you can decode into a completely different form on the computer screen. People say, oh, yeah, I know about that. Wi-Fi, the computers, yeah, know about that. And the only difference between your mad mate and, oh, yeah, I know about that, is knowledge. Knowledge that Wi-Fi and computers exist. Now, what is a computer doing? It's taking a field of information called Wi-Fi, and it's decoding it into a completely different state on the screen. My face is not in the Wi-Fi. Information the computer decodes as my face is in the Wi-Fi. And where is the computer decoding the Wi-Fi? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? No, it's inside the computer. And what's kind of really struck me over recent times, decades now, is how the technological explosion that we're seeing in the world mirrors the way we interact with reality and what reality is. So you take a Wi-Fi field, that in the greater scheme it's the simulation. The simulation is not a construct, it's a field of information. And it's like, if you remember in the first Matrix movie, the Morpheus character held up a battery and he said, the Matrix, simulation, the Matrix is a computer-generated dream world built to turn human beings into one of these, a battery. And that was a profound truth within apparently a fictional movie, because this is a simulated reality which we take to be real. And as a result of what happens in this reality and our interaction with this reality, we generate this massive amount of low vibrational energy, loosh, which these entities feed off. And so you have the body, and it's constantly decoding the matrix. And it's doing it through the five senses, which is why the virtual reality games can override the five senses and give you a different reality, which you react to before you do that. And you've only got to look at mainstream science to see the sequence. What's happening is the simulation field is held in the form of frequency. Frequency carries information. And I mean, you get the frequencies of television broadcasts in the old analog system. They broadcast the frequency, and the television decoded the frequency information into the television program you were looking at on the screen. It's the same principle. And so the five senses are locking in to this frequency information of the simulation. And the five senses, the ears are a classic. That's frequency information. Everyone knows that, sound waves. But it's all frequency information, including sight. And the five senses then communicate that frequency information, having decoded it into electrical information, and they communicate it to the brain. And there's different parts of the brain that specialize in decoding the different senses. And then the brain forms a sense of reality from that information. And it's a digital holographic reality, which we experience as external to us. I grant you that's what it looks like, but actually it's all going on in here, just as it's all going on in the computer as I'm looking at it here. And if you look at it, everything is frequency. All of it's frequency, which is decoded into other forms that we experience as human reality. I'm speaking now, and people are hearing my words, but there's not words that are passing between us. It's frequency. My vocal cords are generating a frequency field. And that frequency field passes through the ether until it hits the ears. And they decode that frequency field into electrical information, which is fed to the brain, and the brain then decodes it into the words that we hear. And everything is frequency decoded by the body into the sense of reality that we're experiencing. So when you die, you don't die. You are consciousness. You are infinite, eternal consciousness, or expression of it anyway in this reality. What dies is the body. And what happens then? The body ceases to function, and it ceases to decode this reality. So suddenly your consciousness finds yourself in another reality, what we call a near-death experience. And so death is just the death of the body. If this computer ceases to function and the screen goes black, what do we say? My computer's died. Exactly. It stopped decoding the internet onto the screen. That's all death is. But they want us frightened of death and fearful of death and in terror of death, because that, well, produces more loose for a start. So everything is a field of energy, information, including the body, ultimately, which we are decoding into a physicality, a holographic physicality. You look at holograms now, where they are getting so sophisticated that you can often not even tell them. And soon the people involved in that say you won't be able to tell the difference between reality that you say is real and holographic reality, because this is all holographic, because it's all going on in here. And so what we're doing when we look at anything is we're looking at a field of information. And that field of information is decoded frequency into a physical reality within here. And so when you're looking at someone who looks human, what you're looking at is a field of information that we call human. But these non-human entities that infiltrate our world, they're hybrids. They have a human field and they have a non-human field. And obviously the human field is the one that's projected at the world most of the time, unless they're among their own. And so you look at someone with a human field, or that level of the hybrid that is the human field, and you will see a human. But when that other field, reptilian or non-human of some form, becomes the dominant one and overrides the human field, to the observer, they have shifted from a human being, solid, into a non-human entity, solid. But that's your decoding process that's delivering that illusion. What has happened is that a field of information carries the human genetic field, if you like, has been overridden by a non-human field. And it's the same principle as when, like I said, the UFO comes into visible light. It appears out of nowhere and it leaves visible light and it disappears into nowhere. Well, it hasn't disappeared at all. It's just entered visible light and left. And it's all this decoding illusion based on the frequency band that we are decoding into an apparently human world. And so shape-shifting, people say, you can't go from a solid body to another solid body. No, you can't. No, you can't. I'm the first one to say, of course you can't. But that's not what's happening. What's happening is a field of information has been overridden by another field of information in these hybrid bloodlines. And to the observer, there's been a physical shift, but it's not a physical shift. It's a shift of information, which means a shift in the information decoded and therefore the way it appears to the observer. And shape-shifting has been talked about for as long as humanity's been around, really. The old ancients and the shamans of the ancient world were talking about all this stuff. And when you talk to the number of people that I have about their experiences, and all walks of life and backgrounds, extraordinary stories that I've been told by different people, that they've experienced this, seeing this shift from one form to another, then to write it off as drugs. People are drugged, and they want them to think that they're shape-shifting reptilians. Well, she should have been with me for the last 35 years and seen all the undrugged people that have told me their stories. This thing is real. And like I say, we need to understand this non-human dimension, which is driving all this, to understand why they do the rituals, why they do the because people are overwhelmingly possessed people. And so these entities, astral entities, they override. They don't necessarily have to possess them the entire time, but at the appropriate time, shall we say, they'll come in and they'll override the energy field of the And when the people is the entity, overriding entity, operating in the astral, is drawing off the energy of the child. There is a point, of course, that we call puberty. And puberty appears to be a chemical, hormonal transformation. And yes, on one level it is. But what's driving that transformation is an energetic information change transformation that happens at that point in the development of a human. And these entities, for whatever reason, want that energy before puberty happens. This is why they are obsessed with children. This is why people are attracted on a scale that beggars belief. See, when I first started coming across this in the 90s, it wasn't the fact that it was happening that shocked me, because if it's possible, then someone will be doing it. The scale of it is what shocked me. And people are just starting to grasp a little bit of what the scale is. It's bloody everywhere. And so what the entity is doing as it overrides the is it's drawing the energy of the child off. And I quote people, various shamans in my books, who talk about how these entities, which they give different names to depending on the culture, are drawing off this energy of children, so that the child's energy at the end of this process is far, far less vibrant and vivid than it was before, because they've basically taken their energy. And so this is what's happening. The people is actually a conduit to draw off the child's energy. And in the same way, you've got the rituals, and overwhelmingly, they are sacrificing, because again, they're drawing off that energy pre-puberty. And, you know, we're kind of light years beyond Trump or Harris, where the mainstream alternative media is Trump or Harris, it's a Democrats. Look where we are. And I'm covering just a tiny fraction of what I've uncovered in the last 35 years, which gives you a completely different perspective on the world and why what happens in the world is happening and is being made to happen. Now, why do they want us fused with AI? What is AI? Okay, algorithmic AI, yeah, okay, one level. And then there's other AI, that's another level. But what is the AI that they want to connect us to, really? It's these entities. It's a frequency connection to these entities. And at that point, those entities are doing our thinking and they're doing our emotional reaction. And if you want to generate maximum, quote, loosh, then you want control of what people think and what people emotionally feel. And that's the real reason. They want to create a hive mind where they can centrally dictate human thought and emotion through AI and this AI connection, this AI fusion. And so people like Ray Kurzweil at Google, the so-called futurist, who claims to be the person alive today who's been talking about this for longest, he says that by 2030, he said this a few years ago, by 2030, humans will be fused with artificial intelligence, connected to it. It's already happening. And that once that connection is made, the AI will be doing more and more, his words, the AI will be doing more and more of human thinking until human thinking is negligible. In other words, deleted.